Okay. Okay, looks good. Here we go. So hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. Today, we're going to be shining a very bright light on Ashley Winkle, a SWEP customer who's been driving business growth during these very uncertain times. So as we get into this, we're going to, hear from her, hear her story. We're going to touch on a number of lessons that you can take that will, directly impact your business, that you can take action on and grow your company. So my name is Michael Brown. I'm the founder and CEO at SWEP Software. We help commercial cleaning business owners just like you find profitability faster and sleep at night. And when I say that, I mean, I owned a cleaning company. I had a really difficult time sleeping because of challenges coming up with either cleaners didn't show up or something was wrong with the contract, and it really, really bothered me. And that's why I built SWEP. So today, our customers are retaining their contracts 91% better than industry standard, something I know they love and my team is proud of. But enough about me and SWEP. I'm super excited to introduce you to Ashley. So Ashley, I'll just first off welcome, and then I'm going to do a bit of an intro. Thanks for joining us. So Ashley launched her cleaning company in 2017 with her husband, Steve. And they recorded the highest sales for first-year owners in the history of the Office Pride franchise network, which is incredible. They went on to win Rookie of the Year at Office Pride, and then they were on the list for the Rockstar franchise owners in 2019. No big deal, just each year, just making it happen. Not only that, they're growing really rapidly, and they've gone on to launch 2 more franchises. And finally, they won the Franchise of the Year award in 2020. So incredibly impressive. And we're going to hear how you've kind of gone on that journey. So again, thank you very much for joining us, Ashley.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm really thrilled that you made the time for us, because as I read through and I was putting this all together, like you have to be just maxed out. So I think everyone's going to love to hear some of the time management things that you figured out along the way.
Sure, absolutely. I'll share what I can.
So to kick things off, Jess is on my team. She's working in the background. She's going to launch some polls to help get us a sense of who's on the call with us on the webinar today. Just to be clear, these we don't see who's responded. It's completely anonymous, but just gives us a sense of your company size, where you're at, and things like that to help with the kind of Q&A as we structure this. So also I'll note as we jump in, this is going to be really interactive. Please share your questions for Ashley along the way. We'll either catch them on the fly or we will get them at the end during the Q&A. But I just want to make sure if you have questions, Ashley's a great resource. She's been a phenomenal business owner. And so really take the opportunity to poke and ask questions and learn. So with all that said, we'll jump in. And I will do much less talking for the remainder of this, so no pressure. But first off, we'd love to hear the story of how you got into commercial cleaning.
Yeah, so I have been married to my husband coming up on 15 years. And we have just always known that we wanted to do some sort of business together. And growing up, my family had a service industry business. It was pest control. And I just saw the value of service industry businesses. They're fairly recession proof. They are just, there's something that people don't want to do. And if people don't want to do it, there's always a need for you, right? And so we had looked at other types of businesses, and we had just decided service industry was the way to go. And we kind of stumbled onto a service when we were on a trip with our kids, and we were trying to get out and about with our kids. And I did some Googling on what that service was, because I was like, I don't think we have that where we live. And I never really did figure out what that was until 2020. We've stumbled upon the Office Pride franchise system, and it really kind of lined up with my husband had kind of a list of values and things that he wanted to do for customers and employees of whatever business that we started. And Office Pride had a very similar list of core values. And so it kind of lined up with everything. It hit on my, I'm the face. I love to talk. And I love being in front of people. I love marketing. I love sales. I love all that sort of thing. And my husband is behind the scenes, introvert, operations, he handles all that sort of stuff. And so it played to those strengths. And then it played to what we wanted with core values and how we wanted to treat people, whether they were customers or employees or whatever. And so we took a deep dive in and we said, okay, we'll just keep going until it looks like it's not a good fit. Mm-hmm. And here we are, and it was a really good fit. And so we just kept going, and we're happy we did.
That's awesome. I've had the pleasure to join an Office Pride event one time. I think it was in Clearwater, and it was amazing. Like I've been to a number of events and like super thoughtful for the vendors and for the franchise network. And I was like, this is special. It was really cool. So for those of you who don't know Office Pride, do a Google search, check in and take a look at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the other side of it, it sounds like you and your husband, you had an idea, like you were very intentional about what you wanted to create. So it didn't necessarily have to be the cleaning industry, but you knew that you wanted to, kind of make that impact.
Right. Yeah. I think that's important for anybody that's going to go into business, to say, okay, this is the realm that I want to be in, but not pigeonhole yourself into this is exactly what I want to start, because it might not fit for where you are in that market. Yeah. And so, we were pretty open to, okay, we want to be in the service industry, but we're open to whatever that looks like for us.
So values and business leadership and mindset first, basically.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. And I have to ask, because when I saw these, like, the fastest growing franchise in the first year, and then franchise, you're early into it, but you're doing so well. Did you guys go in with that intent of like, we're going to go in and be the best? It's like, because it feels like it's amazing, but did you expect that when you jumped in? Were you guys dreaming of that and starting it with that intent?
I had no idea until I was awarded the Rookie of the Year, or we were awarded the Rookie of the Year. I have to be real careful. I tend to say and my husband's very much a part of this. And so I own that I am terrible about making it me and not us. So sorry. But when we were awarded the Rookie of the Year, I had no idea that we were going to get the award. And I had no idea that we had done the most sales of anybody in the company. And quite frankly, I remember thinking, because we're in a really small market, our first franchise, the population here is around 150,000 for the whole MSA. And so it's a very, very small market. And I remember thinking, how sad. We did the best in this market. And so I'm ultra competitive, like will totally tear up my kids in a game and not feel bad about it. So I think that's probably a lot of it, is that I just, once I'm on go, I'm on go. And so I just went for it and it worked out.
So I have a question for you, because when I owned my cleaning company, one of the things that drove me just crazy was, cleaners wouldn't show up and I'd have to go in. As I mentioned earlier, that's why I developed Swept. How did you get out of the cleaning yourself? Because like we have a Facebook group, and that's where people start introducing themselves and say, this is my name, this is my, my region, here's how many cleaners, revenue, whatever the case is. And like, I'm out of the cleaning or still cleaning. But you guys have now 3 franchise. And like, how did you get over that gap?
Yeah. So for us, the way that we kind of had decided it would work, my husband, when we started, still had his day job. And I started the company with me doing the sales and being out and doing the day-to-day operations of ordering the supplies and making sure that the books were good. And, just all that, everybody deals with it, right? Yep. And so he would go out at night after his day job, and he would do the training and the just fill-ins, whatever it is that we needed. We chose not to take a salary for the first year and put everything back into the business. Because of that, at the 6-month mark, we were able to hire a GM. And that foundationally was probably the most important thing that we could have done. And he's still with us. His office is next door. He's an incredible asset. He's a friend. We are actually, because we won Franchise of the Year, we just got everything booked, and his family and our family were going to Disney together as a reward. We can't do this business without that leadership. And so I cannot say enough how important it is to find that key person early.
That's amazing. So 95% of the industry is small, like micro small businesses, and people, it's easy to start a cleaning company. It's difficult to get over that. And again, just so it's very clear, you made that sacrifice. You know, they talk about entrepreneurship. It's living a few years like most people won't, so you can live the rest of your life like most people can't. And that's exactly what you've done. You guys made that sacrifice and then brought that person in. I've talked to business owners, and it's not about how hard you work sometimes. Like, people will put in so much effort and they get stretched so thin and they're just exhausted and they're thinking it should be easier. Like, I didn't sign up for this, I thought something else. And that's such a, hiring a GM, bringing someone in that support and that leadership early on. So I hope everyone who's in the early stage is taking note of that and thinking about how to make that a reality for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, oh, sure. Yeah.
I was just going to say, like, for people that aren't in our position, where, sorry, my computer's trying to update the printer right now, of course. I'm like, seriously, no, I don't want the printer updated right now. But for people that are like, I can't go without a salary for a year, or my husband isn't, I'm the husband, I'm the breadwinner, I'm, whatever. One of the things that I talk to other office prep people and say is, get a really close relationship with your banker. And if you need to, get a line of credit and live off that line of credit for a year. And then, start paying it back after that year. Some people don't want to go into debt. Totally get that. Totally respect that. But there are options out there. You don't have to just go without pay if that's scary and terrifying to you.
And you did it in 6 months as well. You made that leap in 6 months. And I'll say, to get that person hired, I did the same thing. I had a line of credit, and I started another business. It was in the eavesdropping and rain gutter business, and started cleaning. But it was $10. And I ended up making like literally millions of dollars in revenue off of it. $10. It was a class project when I was in university, because we weren't not allowed to spend anymore. So there's ways, to get creative and think about it. And I've also heard where people, the husband and wife team, they say, we're only going to pay ourselves for the time when we are doing the cleaning. So we're not paying. So we're going to pay a cleaner, or we're going to do it ourselves. But you have to be careful that you don't run into the loop where you're now cleaning for 80 hours and not focusing on your business.
Exactly. And that's why we had heard that from some people, and we chose not to do that for that exact reason, because I didn't want to get into the position where we were going, well, we really need to pay ourselves that extra $100 this week, so I'm going to go out and clean so that I can write myself that check. That just wasn't where we wanted to be, because our goal was to be at a completely different place than an hourly worker. That's not why we could have gone and worked hourly somewhere.
They talk about like the entrepreneurial scorecard, where like you have a $10 hour task or a $5,000 hour task. And the $5,000 is blocking, I talked about in a past webinar, blocking time for a couple hours a week to say, how are we going to grow our revenue? How are we going to build a referral program? And like creating that space, turning off your phone and being disciplined, whether it's 60, 90, 120 minutes, and saying like, that's what really drives the business. Sometimes it's not a lot. It's just creating that special amount of space for yourself to think and grow.
Absolutely. And I mean, even little things where you sign yourself up for new business announcements in your area where, I mean, it's just a quick email, but you're just glancing over them and going, oh, I need to be sure to reach out to them.
Yeah.
Or, whatever. I mean, it's just little things like that they don't take up extra time, but it gets you leads and gets you out there in a way that maybe you wouldn't have if you were just driving around town or whatever.
Yeah. So what was the most challenging part for you to get this business before COVID? Because I would like to talk about some of the challenges with COVID, but before COVID hit, what would you say, because you have a fantastic track record in the few years you've been in this business. What were some of the biggest challenges?
I think in this industry, it's always employees, whether it's COVID or not. I think that employees is always going to be the hardest thing. And I remember when we were about to get started with a franchise system, you have to do validation calls. And that's where you call other people that are in the franchise system to make sure that what they're telling you from a corporate standpoint is true and that sort of thing. So I was doing these validation calls. And again, the competitive, somewhat arrogant side of me listened to these people say, employees, they're the hardest partner. And we're thinking they just haven't found the secret sauce. And I'm going to find the secret sauce. There's no secret sauce, but with all that said, I think that you can use some common sense in hiring when you're looking at resumes, and you can really weed through people that are not going to be as effective for you very easily and very quickly. People that maybe for the most part have only been an at-home nurse where they sit with someone all day long and get to watch TV and that sort of thing. If my people are on the clock, they better be moving the whole time. And if they've gotten used to sitting at their job and being able to just kind of relax, same thing with a security guard or somebody that drives a lot for a living, they're probably not going to enjoy being on their feet and being active the whole time that they're on a shift.
Yeah.
Somebody that works in a lunchroom who's used to being on their feet, getting dirty, all that sort of thing, sign me up all day long. I'll take all the lunchroom ladies.
Yeah.
But just using common sense where you think through stuff like that, I think has helped us. We actually have a pretty good employee track record. It's still the most difficult thing, but just really thinking through things in a common sense sort of way, I think has really helped to push us to where we're not struggling every week for employees.
That's awesome. And how has the challenges changed, with COVID? What kind of things have your business come up against, and how did you rise up and keep driving that growth forward?
Yeah. So in the US, obviously there have been a lot of unemployment and stimulus packages that have allowed people to stay home and make much more than they would have if they were out just working. And I can't fault them for wanting to do that. That would be hard to say no to. And so we've really had to rely on referrals of current employees and saying, okay, who do you know that's like you, that wants to work, that has a great work ethic? If you come and bring us somebody and they work for us for 3 months, then you get $50.
Yeah.
And that's been incredibly beneficial in this time for us.
Yeah. And what I found in the past, same thing when I owned my cleaning company, nobody wants to recommend their cousin that's not going to work out. Like, it's that awkward, like they only want to bring great, the cousin can be wonderful, and they will recommend that one, but not the other cousin, kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
When COVID first hit and it was getting real, and nobody knew exactly like how long is this going to go, were you scared? Like, how did you start to navigate that?
I feel like we didn't have time to be scared. We had a really large startup that was starting May 1st. And we were so focused on it and getting supplies. That was the hardest part, was when everybody was buying up all of the things, and we had this massive startup, 60 acres of cleaning. And we were like, oh my gosh, we've got to have supplies for all of this, plus hire for all of this. And everybody in the world is literally buying all the cleaning supplies. And so I looked like I was in a post position in basketball, boxing out at like the Lowe's and the Home Depot, buying up anything that I thought we might need, that we might run out of over the next 6 months for this account. I mean, I was standing there trying to decide what to get at Home Depot when the Home Depot guy came up and said, hey, get what you want. The FBI is coming over to confiscate the rest of what you don't get. I'm like,
wow,
I'll take all of this.
Wow, that's wild.
So, I mean, it got real there for a minute with supplies.
Yeah.
With PPE, with masks, with glasses, with, all of those things. It got real. And so we just tried to do our best to think ahead and plan ahead on supplies. And then if we had employees that were nervous, we, tried to say, listen, we're doing everything right. We've given you the right tools. We've given you the right protection. If you follow those guidelines, you'll be fine. And just being that reassuring, calming voice, I think, to employees was huge at keeping, most of our employees stayed with us throughout. There were a few that were just too scared to go to work, and we understood. It's something that none of us have ever experienced. And so we just asked those employees, just be sure to let us know if you're choosing to go this route, so that we can have this covered. So, I think.
So how did you build trust? How did you build trust with your employees? Like you mentioned, you did some training, but like, was there, I guess you have to be distance, and like how did you kind of navigate that thing? Really calm.
Yeah, we told them that we had masks available for them if they needed them. If they couldn't find them, they could come to the office and pick them up. We had PPE available if they needed it. We had, we went over our disinfectant, what it required for it to kill things. We very frequently sent out information that the CDC was sending out, so that they and quoted from the CDC so that they knew that it was from a reliable source. We never minimized what was going on, because it was, it's very real. It's very much happening, but we tried not to fearmonger either, where they felt like, oh my gosh, we're cleaning and there's this, and that sort of thing. And if there was ever any confirmed cases, we were very clear with our customers that we required a disinfection before any of our employees were allowed to go in. And we did electrostatic disinfection, where the person was fully covered in PPE and masks and, everything like that, so that our employee felt safe going into this location, and they didn't feel like, well, they just don't even care about me. They just sent me in here, and that there's been a confirmed case. Now, I'm sure that there are places that they've gone in that there have been confirmed cases, and our customers didn't let us know, but we've tried really hard to not let that happen.
And can you talk a bit about the customer, like your clients, how to work with them? Because I feel like some people probably just wanted to have nobody around at all. Some people might want more services, because I've heard different things. And how did you kind of build that trust and confidence with them?
Well, I think the old adage that the customer is always right is true here as well. If they felt like they needed more, we gave them more. If they felt like they needed less, we gave them less. And we just would suspend a service until they told us they were ready for us again. or we would ramp it up. We would make sure that we went over with those employees where we ramped it up, make sure you're touching the door handles, make sure the light switches, the door frames, things that people are touching frequently. Let's make sure, that we're hitting these, going over dwell times on the disinfectants, making sure that they understood what that meant and that sort of thing. So, just really going through with our employees what our customer was saying to us and parroting that to our employees, because ultimately whatever they're feeling is what they're feeling, and so you have to be true to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you thinking about, COVID hit us, it surprised all of us, talking with second, third waves, all the rest, vaccine could be soon, could be longer. Are you doing anything now to prepare, or is it just kind of taking it day by day? And
yeah, so ironically, we had been using electrostatic disinfection for almost the entire time we've been open.
Oh, okay.
We had already been using that technology. We already had a gun in place. We already had chemical. Unfortunately, that chemical did get approved to kill coronavirus. And so we were already really familiar with that system. And as I said, my dad was in pest control service industry, and that's what I grew up with. And so in my mind, I really foresee in the future electrostatic spraying being used like pest control, where you're coming in either monthly or weekly, and you've got a technician and you're going in, and I build a route, and I have a little car, and they've got, their gun and their chemical and all that sort of thing. And so we've really been working hard on what that looks like for our customers, and coming up with pricing that works for us, but also is not something that they can't build into their monthly budget.
Yeah.
And so we've got it really close to what you would typically spend on monthly pest control for monthly sprayings. We've come up with some marketing stuff to go along with that. We've, just really kind of tried to ramp that side of things up, because I feel like that's going to become the new normal.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fascinating, this time we're in right now. I feel like it's gonna be interesting to look back 10 years from now and look back on this, and it's like, how are people showing up as humans in general in their own family lives, in the business they work in, with the vendors, the partners. We're all in this, and it's a great opportunity to build trust and build those long-term relationships as well.
Absolutely.
Can you share with me, because again, we know how, getting bits of this journey, how far spread you must be with like all the things that are going on. How do you balance that with family?
Well, SWEP has actually been really helpful because I've got now not just one GM, I've got a GM and an area manager and multiple supervisors and all that sort of thing now. Again, that infrastructure is huge for growing your business. Be constantly building on that. But because of SWEPT, we've been able to very easily say, okay, this is how you're checking to make sure that people are there and that jobs are being taken care of. And it's easy to train on. It's easy to teach our employees how to sign in and request things and all that sort of stuff. And so I've been able to really step back this year. Now, Steve's been very hands-on, but I've been able to really step back this year, and I'm actually homeschooling my kids in the midst of all of this. I have 3 of them, 10, 7, and 4. Michael got to meet my 4-year-old right before this all came on, but so I'm teaching 4th grade, 2nd grade, and pre-K 3 this year while still trying to run the business. And I also have another business just that has nothing to do with this.
Let's just spin another one up right now. Let's just come up with an idea and then we'll get it.
Well, I've had this one for since 2012. So
okay, yeah,
it's been going on for a while, but I think that it's been really crucial to have swept there so that I can ask questions or I can see on my phone, okay, this is being handled, this is being taken care of. I can see messages going back and forth between that area manager and that employee, or that customer and that manager or supervisor. I can see that it's being handled, and I'm not stressed going, oh my gosh, nobody's responded to that. Or, I can see, in real time that that's happening. I think I saw where somebody asked how we use it in sales. And we definitely use it in sales. We called, swept, and said, I need a one sheet. And so when we go, and it looks very similar to what is behind Michael right now. And when we go and do a sales presentation in front of somebody, I pull it out and it kind of just goes over really quickly what swept is. And then I'll pull my phone out because it's right there. It's so easy to use. And I can whip it out and say, now this is my side of things. Yours isn't going to look the same, and the employees isn't going to look the same, but this is my side. And look how easy it is for these location messages to be going on, and for these supplies to be requested for your location, or for you to let us know. And the big selling point is, instead of sending a text message or an email or whatever, you can send that message within Swept, and one person doesn't get it, 2 people don't get it, 3 people don't get it, 5 people get that message, and you get taken care of really quickly if there is an issue that needs to be taken care of really quickly. Or 7 people see it, or however many are on that particular account.
Yeah.
And so much of the time the customer has not been taken care of the way that they should with their last service that they were using.
Yeah.
And so for them to say, oh my gosh, like, this woman is saying I can send a message and they get it as quick as a text, but all of them get it, I'm going to be really well taken care of.
Yeah.
And I mean, we pride ourselves on being able to respond to that need really quickly, and Swept is a huge part of that. And so that's how I use it in sales, to just talk about, it's very easy for us to upload what they're supposed to be doing every night. So they can check back on it, constantly while they're there. It's very easy for them to communicate with us as employees. It's very easy as a customer for you to communicate with us. And just that ease of use. And we're all so app centric now, right? I mean, everybody knows how to use apps. I mean, even the 65 and up crowd, it's just the norm. And so it's not a huge learning curve for people.
It's interesting. You take cleaning. So a lot of people, their path into business ownership and cleaning is they were a cleaner, they get a contract from someone they know, and they just start to build. Cleaning it's hard work, but in general, like, if you like cleaning, which I very much like cleaning, it's kind of fulfilling. Like, you look at the space afterwards, the desks, everything's organized. I like that. But then you start adding on more people, and then you are, going home at night, your cleaners are going out, and it just becomes this logistical it's kind of set up to fail, in a sense, when you're taking people, maybe they don't speak English as a first language. You meet the client, you guys connect on the scope of work. The cleaner doesn't always know. The 3 of you actually never are together, or whoever's cleaning the account. No one's ever actually together at the beginning, and then everyone's working on it separately. It's like, of course there'll be issues. So it sounds like to me, you've gone out and built a great team, and then you look at systems to help support that team, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And somebody asked, with that team in mind, how we went about hiring a GM. And we were really fortunate. Jonathan had owned his own business before. He was the president of a newspaper before he came on board. So his background was definitely not cleaning. And he had owned his own business and then taken another job, and still had a little bit of debt that he wanted to pay off for that business that he had owned. And so he had interviewed with me and was really impressed that he was a former business owner, his background in journalism, his degree, all of that sort of thing. But then I was really impressed that he wasn't just going to write off his debt, or that he wasn't going to just go home at night and say, well, I'll pay it off when I pay it off. And so he became a cleaner for us and was very thorough. I remember the first time he ever got a complaint, it just killed him. And, you know, we all get complaints, right? I mean, it doesn't matter who you are, we all get, but he took ownership, and it was huge. And it was time we hired him in, we started in the last week of August. We had our first account in September. He was hired in November, and in January, we started looking at hiring a GM. And we had talked to somebody else, and there was just some immaturity that showed up as we went through the process. And we said, man, we really wish that we could hire Jonathan, but I know we can't pay him enough. And somebody encouraged us and said, ask. And so we took him to lunch and we said, so we can't pay you enough. And we know we can't pay you enough, but I promise you, I will work my tail off to grow this business to where you are going to be compensated in the way that you have been being compensated as quickly as possible. And then I'll grow it to where you can make more. And he went home and he thought about it, and he came back and said, I'll take the risk. And he took a $20,000 pay cut to come and work for us, which is insanity. But I gave him some parameters, and I said, hey, as soon as we hit this sales goal, I'm going to give you this much extra. As soon as we hit this sales goal, I'm going to give you this much to work up to what you were making. Yeah. And it closed the back door, as we would say, you know, because it doesn't matter how much I'm selling. If we're losing customers, then it doesn't help anything. And so it became his job to make sure we kept the customers. And so I'm selling as fast as I can. He's keeping as much as he can, which is our retention rate is about 92%. And so it really empowered him in the company to feel like he had an active role in his salary. And we were able to get him back within 1 year of being hired to his original salary. And then by the next year, we were able to give him a very nice pay raise. And so, you know, look within your company and see who has shown maturity, who has shown responsibility, that sort of thing. And don't be afraid if they make more than what you can pay them right now, as long as you lay out your plan. But then you have to follow through and do what you've promised them and work your tail off.
Yeah. And people who I love, by the way, you sharing this, and because it's so real. This is the reality where we're at. And when you find that person, if someone's so coin operated, they're only coming over if there's low risk, like they're not up with the mission, they're not connected with the company, you're not going to get out of them what you need. And when you have someone who wants to work and who wants to be that driving force and make an impact and be able to go tell their friends and family, look at what we've done. Like your guys' success, franchise of the year, is because of your team, of course. And I know you know that, but it's like, it's so much about the people. And then you get, everyone gets to realize that success upon, you know, reaching that milestone, right? It's it's so great. Yeah. Yep.
Very exciting.
What is next for you? No.
Yeah, I saw somebody's question. They said, what's our sales goal? And our next sales goal is 6 million annual sales goal. And so that's what we're striving for. And we're really close. I don't handle the numbers as much anymore. My husband does, thank goodness. I am not administratively gifted. I can do it. I have the ability. I hate it. That is just not where I'm bent. And so I'm thrilled we were able to bring my husband over full time almost 2 years ago. And I gave that to him immediately. I was like, here, take that. But we are really close to 2 million right now. And that's after 3 years. Our
Which is
goal
incredible, by the way.
is,
A lot of people are trying to get to the $1 million mark, and they've been at it for years and years and years. That's amazing growth.
yeah, we're really pumped. But our next goal is 6,
Yep.
which when we started this, if you had said, you're going to have a goal of $6 million, I would have been like, no. And so when we first sat down and came up with that goal, it was a little bit like, because I'm sales. So it's like, oh, okay, there's a lot, and I'm homeschooling your kids right now. Cool. But I think it's very attainable. You know, I think that, again, talking about natural bent, I am not naturally organized. That is not who I am. I am a fly by the seat of my pants, just very loose person. And so that's one of the things that we've been working on this year, is just talking about how to work out of my weakness and be more organized. And I think that's really important. That's something that we did early on with our team, is we brought somebody in who talks about personality and strengths and weaknesses, and how our personalities work together, and how our strengths and weaknesses play off of each other. And I think a lot of times when you're in leadership, you like to hide your weaknesses. And I'm very open about my weaknesses, and am very okay with us laughing about them, and just me saying, okay, you know, I'm not good at this. Can you take this on? Either you or you or you or you know. For example, my personality, I like to be efficient, and I think everyone likes to be efficient. And that's, I've figured out in the last few years with this company that is not the case always. But so I talk in bullet points a lot of times, where I'm like, okay, I need you to do this, and I need you to do this. All right, thanks, bye. And I give no fluff, and I give not a lot of direction, because I think I hire, as Henry Ford said, I hire smart people and get out of their way. And that's what I do. And so I don't want to hem someone in to doing it the way that I would, and operating out of my strengths when it might be operating out of their weakness. And I've figured out that some people need more fluff. And so if there's a customer that needs fluffing, I'm not the one that needs to go. And so I send somebody else that is good at fluff, because I'm just going to take them off, because I'm going to go, yep, we'll take care of it.
Yep.
And then that's it. And they're like, what are you going to do to take care of it? And I'm going to say, I'm going to put my team on it. I don't know what we're going to do to take care of it. And then that scares them even more. And so, I think being really honest about your strengths and your weaknesses is really, really huge, and trying to operate out of strength and find somebody to operate in your weakness.
It's an amazing observation, like reflection of yourself, and to be vulnerable. And I'm very similar with my team. I'm not good at something. I'm going to own it. And then people see an opportunity to fill in the gaps and help. And people love to help at every single level of the company.
And they feel like they can own their weakness too. Exactly. If you've owned yours.
Don't hide
they're
it,
not,
right?
They're not scared to be like, I'm not good at this. Because some places, if you're not a 100 at everything, you're out of here.
It's giving people permission to, you know, because otherwise people start hiding things, right? You have a GM who doesn't feel they can say something. Now you've hired someone you put a lot of trust in, but you haven't set them up behaviorally to succeed. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. So there's, I'm hoping people are taking a lot of notes right now. This is so awesome. So when you think about this growth goal, you've got a target, 6 million. Have you worked your way back looking at, what team you're going to need, how, is there going to be another region, another franchise? Is there going to be, like, how are you going to get from there, from here to there?
Yeah, so we just purchased that third franchise in August. We really haven't done anything with it just because COVID, homeschool, all of the things.
Yeah.
But we've said from day one that we wanted three for multiple reasons. So we kind of hit that goal, and then we kind of worked backwards and said, okay, this small market, the Shoals, where we are, we know we're pretty close to tapping out what we can get out of this. I mean, obviously you're always going to have ebb and flow and that sort of thing. But there's not a lot of new growth in this small market. And so it's not like in a larger city where there's constantly new things that are being built. So this market is fairly well what it is. And we're just going to have to massage it and do a trickle growth, not a waterfall growth. Yeah. And then in our other two franchises, they're in very large markets where you couldn't tap it out if you wanted to. And so really that's where we're looking for all of our new growth is in those two markets. And we plan to have area managers in those markets, and then our GM who is centrally located. So the small market is in the center, and one is 2 hours away and the other is 2 hours away. And so we're right in the center. So it's easy to get to either one from where we are. And so our GM will be over all of the area managers and making sure that they're doing all of the things in those markets. And then they'll have lots of supervisors underneath them. And so we've really looked at how that infrastructure is going to look. And as much as I want to plan, this is exactly how many people we're going to hire for this, we haven't gotten into the nuts and bolts of that because it really depends. We hire for the growth. And if we grow with a lot of minimum accounts, let's say smaller, just easy 2 hour cleans in small places. If we wind up growing more in that direction, then we're probably not going to have to hire a lot of supervisors. We're going to just hire one or two, and they're going to have a lot of people underneath them. If we get a really large account that has a lot of full-time people and a lot of hours throughout the day and a lot of just tricky things, then I'm going to be looking at hiring probably 5-6 supervisors just for that one location. And then I've got to have other supervisors on these other smaller things. Yep. And so it just really looks different depending on what that growth turns out to be. And I know that there are some companies that will only look at large growth. And then there's some companies that won't look at any large growth. They'll only look. Yeah. I like the mix. Because when you get a really large account, it's then hard to start up another really large account really quickly after that. Because it taps you out on your resources, your people, your finances, your, everything. And you're tied up in it for a while. But if you've got these smaller ones that are easy, that you can just put somebody on that's already an employee, then you can continue to grow while you're getting that larger one rolling. And then you can go after another larger one in, 3 months when it's really gotten off the ground. So that's where we are. That's kind of our goal, is to a big one, lots of small ones, a big one, lots of smaller ones, that kind of thing.
And you can't do any of that if you're cleaning for 80 hours a week. That's just the real. Because as you listen to this, I'm sure there's people here at different stages. And to be clear, everyone who's listening, once upon a time, I was cleaning easily 80 hours, but I ended up getting into 3 cities. But I had to change that behavior, and it was a lot about the mindset. Yep. So another question. I haven't
cleaned in 2 years.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah. Which my husband has, but that's just the roles that we've taken on. And he has not cleaned here in this market, and I don't know how long. because he took on more of a managerial role in when we have a new franchise startup, he kind of takes that on until we get that area manager trained up and in place. And so he's really kind of handled the brunt of that startup, but we've really gotten a great area manager down there, and she's really starting to blossom and understand how it all works and how it all ties together and that sort of thing.
That's awesome. So when it sounds like, by the way, an amazing partnership. You know, some people have challenges with partnerships, or sometimes people are too much alike, so they don't have any gaps. They both have the same gaps and no one can fill them. It sounds like an amazing alignment. When you think about taking on new contracts, you know, I've talked to a lot of business owners since COVID has hit, and they're talking about, well, you know, we used to focus just on office, or maybe they were in more healthcare, dentist style, and now they're trying to get in a little bit of everything, because you never know what's going to open, close, how things are going to adjust. When you think about the small and large contracts, are you also trying to diversify that aspect?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, I love banks. I love medical offices. They're great, but banks and medical offices are who suspended us during the beginning of the pandemic. And so I need somebody who's not going to suspend me, right? I need somebody who's still going to work, still going into the office. And so I have no problem having a very diversified, but again, it goes back to, with your hiring, using that common sense and saying, okay, grandma who's come in that wants to work a second job to help put money into grandson's college fund, she's not going to go into an industrial, dirty, you know, just hard clean. That's not who she is. She's going to go into the medical office or the bank where it's an easier clean, where she's not sweating, right, and hurting her muscles and that sort of thing, not having to get down on her hands and knees and scrub. And you have to be smart about who you're hiring, because if you're having to constantly hire because you're hiring the wrong people for that job, then you're also going to lose that customer. And so when you're looking at diversifying, look at diversifying your employees too.
Amazing. That's a great insight. When I owned my cleaning company, I loved the people who worked at the bank or something like that, and they wanted a little bit of side money that they used for travel or their kids. They were so dependable. And I found it took a long time to figure out how to get the full-time hires. And I did a bit of residential as well, but mainly commercial. And residential, they're cleaning mainly throughout the day, and it's just a different profile. And there's a little bit of, you know, there is a little secret sauce on each side of this on how to figure it out. I would recommend people document it easily in an Excel spreadsheet, just like, you hired somebody, what were their shifts? Was it weekend? Was it evening? And if it doesn't work out, like, why? Was there any red flags, any yellow flags? Like, because we work so much on the recency effect that, you know, if you have a great cleaner, I've heard this so many times, you have a great cleaner, then things start to drop off for a little while and they're over with, as far as they're no good. But it's like, well, they just gave you like 9 amazing months. Maybe there's something up. And it's so important to keep your finger on the pulse of your cleaner. Yeah.
And I think that, again, going back to being able to admit when you're wrong or your weaknesses or whatever. When we first started, I didn't know that insight. You know, I didn't know that there were different types of cleans. I didn't know that, you know, Joe Schmo might be more willing to clean this type of a location versus this type of a location. And we hired for a particular account that's rather difficult clean, several people, and we kept losing people. And one of them, like, I just knew that she was a great person, a great cleaner. Just in my gut, it was just one of those where I'm like, I'm so surprised that she didn't work out, which, I mean, how many times have we said that on people, right? But this one in particular, I called her. We had gotten a really large, kind of very spread out kind of a clean, where it was multiple locations that were all starting the same weekend, and 40 locations in one weekend. And I called her and I said, I know this is kind of crazy. I know that, you only work for a short amount of time, but I promise that this clean is much easier. Would you be willing to come back and do this? Well, I don't know. I mean, of course she's going to be skeptical, right?
Yep.
But she decided to do it. And I said, I promise it will be much less taxing on you, because it was a second job for her. And she came and she did it, and she stayed with us for a full year. And then she wanted to take off for like 2 or 3 months to go to California with her kids for the summer. And I was like, absolutely, whenever you get back, let us know and we'll put you back to work. But we had kept that open line of communication. And she did that for 2 years. And then she wound up getting a different job where she didn't have to have a second income, which I was thrilled for her, because that's what we want for all of our employees. And so she wound up not working for us anymore, but she gave us a 2-week notice. We, it worked the way that you want it to work, but it was because I ate my pride and called her and said, I really put you in the wrong place. And I think that you could be excellent, and I have the right place for you. Would you be willing to step in? And she did. And it was great.
That's so awesome. We have a great question here from Randy. What are some of the successful ways you trim the fat of extra expenditures over the year?
I saw that pop up. Great question. We ironically were sitting at our dining room table last night, my husband and I, discussing this, because we're new enough that we really haven't done a deep dive on that yet. We're only 3 years old, and it's been major growth the entire 3 years. And so it's really hard when you're in growth mode to see areas where you can trim, because you're constantly ordering startup supplies. You're constantly ordering this, you're constantly getting new employees, you're constantly, and so it's really hard to sit down and say, okay, we're spending too much here. Okay, whatever. And so we were actually discussing that last night and saying, okay, it's time. We've got the area manager really covering this area really well. GM's really got everything else kind of handled. We can really kind of take I've taken that step back this year. Now Steve can kind of take this step back to work on the business rather than in the business. And so, I don't have the right answer for you. I think that that's a next step for us, is looking at things. But this is something that I heard from a colleague in the industry. Was they hired someone as an intern from a local university to come in that was in accounting, and they had them kind of go through for the summer as their summer project to look at things, and wound up saving them like $5,000 a month.
Yeah.
Because they just went through and audited and said, you're spending too much here. And so that's one of the things that we've kind of looked at doing. And then, really just using SWEPT, hammering down on the times that people are in there, making sure that they're actually in their geofence, clocking in and clocking out where they should be. Making sure that the supplies are being, okay, how often are they reordering these supplies? Is it too frequently in the middle of the pandemic? Were they asking for toilet paper too often? And so I think really SWEPT is going to be a huge asset for us in the next 6 months as we hammer down on some of those expenses that we know that we can trim up some of that fat.
It's I just moved into a new house, as I mentioned, and we were having someone do a clean, and it's one of my customers who's in our area. And so I asked the cleaners, they're in here, and I said, just so you know, like, I'm the founder and CEO of SWEPT, like, what do you think? And so you can be honest, you don't work for me. I'm just curious because I want to make a product that's great for you. And, they told me they liked it and this and that. And I said, what do you not like about SWEPT? I said, just be honest. And one of them said, well, it used to be where we go in for a 4-hour shift. If you finished 3 hours and 45 minutes, or, we just get paid for the whole shift because our boss wouldn't know. And now that doesn't happen. And I was like, okay, that's a good insight. Like she's like, it's good for the business. And she's like, but I will say, I would do that too. Like, it makes sense. She's like, every industry is like that. So she had no problem with it. And I have customers who will actually pay for the full shift regardless, but it's, however you want to manage it, it's up to you and how that contract you have with your cleaner. But I thought it was so fascinating that as a cleaner who's working this company is like, yeah, that's not that great, but totally makes sense. And it also helps with this, and this. So I was like, it felt really good to connect with them and hear that. But it's powerful. It's like, how do you get everybody to get some value out of this? So
absolutely.
Do the same thing. You want to get that home, that office, whatever, it's on the same mission, get it clean.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. So we are out of time. We just went slightly over. I just want to thank you very much for joining. I'll let everyone know we're going to send an email. There's an offer with Swept for 60 days for $60 to get in, get successful, go win that contract and get a feel for it. We'll also send out a link for a free bidding tool. Actually, I don't know if you know about that. We launched a free tool to help you do a bid, understanding your profit margins, your costs, things like that. Totally free. So we'll send that out. And any parting thoughts for everybody as we wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is setting those goals, saying them out loud, not just to yourself, but to other people, and just being committed to them and being real. And I think that's huge.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I will say, like, true leadership, being vulnerable, sharing those details to help all of us. I appreciate it so much. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Okay. Take care.
Bye.